Jenny and Rosemary's daughters, Meredith and Jane, were the last two brides to wear Agnes's wedding veil. They join us in the Treasures Gallery today. Your grandmother Agnes got married in 1929 to your grandfather Norman, and the year prior she bought her wedding veil in Melbourne. And 27 brides later, you wore it on your wedding day, and so did you.
Yeah.
What are your memories of your grandmother Agnes, or Nessie? I think
she was. I never thought of her as Agnes. I never heard anyone refer to her as Agnes.
She was always, to us, she was Mimi.
Mimi.
Or Nessie. It was always Nessie.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember her as quite a diminutive woman.
Yeah.
In stature.
Yeah.
Even though I was a young child.
Yeah, she was.
Maybe comparatively to other people, she seems
little.
like a little pocket rocket.
Yeah.
I have my strongest visions and mememories are of her in the home, because
mine are in the kitchen on the veranda with the
shearer's
lunchtime. That numerous people and lots of food, and there was always steamed pudding, chocolate steamed pudding. She was just a typical farmer's wife.
I think so, and very
but she had been a nurse.
She had, yes.
So she was very
prior to marrying.
Yeah.
And she I think she ruled a pretty tight ship.
Yeah.
But in a nice way. She wasn't
I never remember her being angry or anything.
I think what she said went, and when it was dinner time, as they called it, everyone was there on time, or they miss out.
Yeah. I remember at night I used to cuddle up with her in the chair when we'd go and visit her, and in the mornings she'd shoo you back off to bed if you got up too early, and she was stoking up the old combustion stove with the porridge in the plate warmer, and
she would. And she knitted. She's a fabulous knitter. I can picture her at night. They'd watch a particular television show.
It was always the ABC.
Always. And you didn't talk while that show was on. Serial. And she would knit furiously all night.
Yeah.
She whistled. She
always whistled.
Just quiet, not whistling like that.
Yeah,
just this little.
I forgot that.
As she operated at home, just with this constant whistle.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think I have almost stronger experiential memories with my grandfather, because we could go with him and do things with him on the farm. Nessie, Mimi, as she was known to us, would be so busy. You're very welcome to be there alongside her, but she had to keep going with what she was doing.
She sounds very talented.
She was.
But she was efficient, and she was kind, and she was busy.
She was, I think, for her whole family, because she was the eldest of the 7 sisters.
Yeah.
So I think all the other sisters looked to her a lot.
I think you're right. And so from my understanding too, that she often looked after people as well, because of her formal nursing background and perhaps her place in the family and that sort of thing.
Eldest daughter.
But also very giving, very community-minded, very service-orientated. I think that's the way most people operate.
Was always sort of part of the community.
Of
doing things.
But very present.
Of the good night community.
The family things. It's not that she was too busy to be there or to be part of it. My understanding, and this is more learned because again Jane and I were young children, but
I was only 7 or 8 when she passed away.
They were quite forward-leaning agriculturally.
Definitely, yes.
Diversified well before I believe
a lot of people
were open to that. For survival, and with the extreme climates and the terrible lengthy drought years that they endured, and I know that they weren't lavish people. I think the years where they had that were plentiful.
Yeah. They
They were
saved that.
preparing
For the
tougher
for
years.
years.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so they
yeah.
were very cautious, and maybe all
Yeah.
farmers are like
Yeah,
that, you
yeah.
know, because that's the only way to navigate what may or may not be ahead.
Yeah.
But they were very warm
Yeah.
and loving and fun, and a big sense of humour family.
Yeah.
You had to
definite
have a sense of
humour.
because
Yeah.
otherwise you were
Yeah. There was always
told fairly quickly to get over yourself.
What made you want to wear the veil on your wedding days?
Well, we knew it was on offer. Our mothers
Yeah.
were very
Yeah.
interested in sharing their family
Yeah,
history, and they
yeah.
were very proud of where they came from.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
having
definitely.
relocated
Yeah.
at different times to Canberra with their own families,
Yeah.
but always kept that.
I think
really
it was
strong
it was
connection.
the legacy of it all too.
It was,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think that was always an option.
Yeah.
When
Definitely.
I was engaged to be married, and
Yeah.
without pressure.
Yeah,
But
was.
It's meant a lot to me because I felt very connected to that side of the family.
For me, it was like it was continuing on this legacy of brides who had worn it within our family, and as you said, it was offered. We weren't made to wear it or anything like that. It was offered, but it was an honour to wear it, sort of thing. So because it had been our grandmother's, so and we both loved her so much. So
And I think people like Jane and I were very connected to family, and it meant a lot to our mothers. And it wasn't for them that I did it,
no,
but it would be truthful. I think if I really assess it, looking back and reflect upon it, that brought me a lot of pleasure to give her that joy that this was
the same.
It makes you want to touch it
Because
it's such
A treasured thing. Yeah.
And it's so lovely to see it up close, and you can see the flowers and
Just the
Exactly.
the craftsmanship in it is phenomenal.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, it's
And
beautiful.
I have the dressmaker who made my dress, fashionably headpiece, very carefully. She was wonderful, and she was so cautious about it being so precious, not to damage it. But so we were pretty trusting in dressmakers to do that without
I actually did
them
my
being
own.
damaged. Yes.
And then I had a lady who made my wedding dress make me rosettes, and I put those onto it with the comb.
Yes, because the photo we have of you where you can see the veil from behind, you do notice the colour. It looks very white here, but the colour gets
colour is. It was like a really pale coffee colour. Yeah,
That's right.
But it looks good with all the dresses that it was worn with.
Yes.
It's so timeless.
it is.
I think
Yeah, it is. That's it. Like you go from our grandmother when she was married, I can't remember what year,
1929.
to myself in 1995.
Yeah.
So you're looking at nearly 70 years.
Yeah.
Like for something like this to last that long and through so many brides is just
And so many potential what could have been issues, right? Things happen
to it.
If the worst thing that's happened is that one of the brides cut 3 feet off it, which it's been pretty, I'm assuming, at that end, because this seems to be in keeping with the scalloping. And a couple of little bridesmaids tripping over it and treading on it down the aisle. I think it's remarkably wonderful.
But it shows it's had a life.
everybody, for one reason or another, thought it worth keeping, because it's very easy sometimes to not look at the bigger picture or reflect on its past history. And think, oh, we don't need this, or you know, this isn't relevant, or no one will wear this. And I wonder how many stories from families are lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Because just a moment's of decision about what is important.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was for that exact reason that we wanted to include it in our treasures gallery, because it is a treasure, and it's a treasure for your family, and for your community in good night as well.
Yeah.
I think the breadth this gallery and archive has for all of Australia is probably the absolute rightful place for something like this.
But this covers everything.
It covers everything.
Australian life.
Yeah, and people's stories. They're important. Yeah, I love it.
It's just the history of everybody.
And I think that's one of the things I love about the collection, is it shows the different ways that you can collect family history. So like your grandmother who collected the photos, your auntie who recorded the interviews, and then your mum who did the voice record, like the oral history. And it's like how, you know, any family can record their own family history.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with a family that size, I think too, even perhaps smaller, you need a few people involved because you can lose track.
There used to be this big old book that Mum had for a while.
Yeah, probably.
And it had all the deaths and marriages and births and everything in it of the Lockhart family.
Yeah.
Well, just the generations,
Yeah. And having met them and when we were very young, that second generation, to picture them as young people is always quite interesting as well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I wasn't expecting to see it again today.
No,
so I'm
neither was I. Really chuffed. Really thrilled.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I still want to touch it. I'm not going to.
Well, it's lovely to hear you talk about the legacy of the veil and how a tradition that was born out of hardship in the 1930s and 40s, where you had occurrences of drought and the Second World War, later became a tradition driven by sentiment and respect for those who came before you. And then just thinking about that, how does it feel to know that this material is now held by the National Library of Australia?
I personally couldn't think, and I know our mothers,
Jane
and I have actually spoken of this. Couldn't think of a better place,
institution to have it.
Conserved and
because there really wouldn't be anywhere else that could keep it in the pristine condition that it needs to be kept in, and things like that, and keeping the history.
Physical conservation and what that entails, which has been so interesting to learn about, because it is so fragile and old. I think this repository, if you like, has such reach to all Australians. Not suggesting this story is more important than any other family's stories, because I think it's probably, if anything, having this lovely focus on it for this treasures iteration is such a wonderful honour. But it also perhaps sparks people to think about their own families and what their own
they have.
traditions. Like, we didn't do a veil, but gosh, that reminds me of something we did, or not necessarily in relation to a marriage, but generationally, or reflect back on an interest in their former relatives and generations before them. And I'd love to think that that's what in fact it would do. So I
definitely.
think it's a wonderful wonderful place.
Yeah.
And also
Yes.
how other families who visit our gallery, they
Yeah.
look at this display and think like, oh, I could do my family history research
Exactly.
too.
Yeah.
Knowing before it is too late.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
you know, it comes to
Yeah.
health is a preventative measure for us now.
Yeah.
But we're very fortunate because our mothers were very generous with that information to share that with us, and always it was important to them, and they passed that on to us, that interest and knowledge. But it comes a time now where it would be too late to ask them questions.
Yeah.
They wouldn't
Yes,
be in a position to be able to really tell us.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful institution.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we feel we all know you a bit better now through this display, but also hopefully when families come through that, we were saying they'll see a bit of themselves in this display.
So, if nothing else, representative of one of the many families that make up this fantastic tapestry that Australia is in terms of their family story. I'm thrilled.
It's touching.
It is. Yes.